everybody. Welcome to Zone Defense. We talk all things NBA and NFL. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Zone Defense Podcast, on Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and hit that subscribe button down below because it really helps out our channel a lot. Also, let us know who you want to win the 2021 NBA Finals. Today, we will be discussing the 2021 NBA Finals between the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. How's it going, Chris?
It's going well, Drew. It's crazy that the NBA season's finally coming to an end. It's kind of sad. It's been a really fun year of the NBA, one of my favorite years to watch for sure. But I am really happy with the two teams that end up making it to the finals. The super teams got eliminated. I like that a lot. Chris Paul is going to get a chance at a ring. I mean, I'm not a big Giannis fan, but he's getting a chance at his first ring as well to, kind of solidify his greatness already in the league. So I think that there's a lot of really interesting storylines in this NBA Finals, and it's a good wrap up to the entire NBA season.
Yeah, I mean, it's in many ways not as much as last season, but it is very season like no other, right? Because there was less games, there was no fans for a majority of it, and I think it's only fitting that we get two teams that I don't think maybe the Bucks you'd expect in the finals, but at the start of the year, I don't think we really anticipated this being the finals matchup. There's no LeBron, there's no super team. It's the first. It's a very different finals matchup, probably the first time in a very long time. It's the most different I think we can. I can at least I can remember since maybe like the Pistons and the Spurs way back in the day, and that was like 15 years ago. So, but yeah, it's two teams that I really like. In a weird way, I'm kind of disappointed that there's not a team that I dislike. So it gives me like a clear rooting interest. But I really like both teams. I'm gonna be happy either way, whether it's Chris Paul or Giannis hoisting up the Larry O'B. But yeah, it's a great like you said, it's a great season. It's been a fun final so far. And it is sad to see it end, but it's nice to see that things are kind of start going back to normal too. Next season should be pretty much like a normal season, which should be good. But we'll jump in now to the actual finals matchup. So the Bucks got here; they beat the Hawks in 6 games. I'm interested to hear what you think about that series, but I was a little disappointed just because the first games I thought were really entertaining, but then once kind of Giannis and Trae Young both got injured, it kind of took away some of the luster. Still wasn't a bad series, but I lost me there a little bit. I wish those guys could have stayed healthy. And then the Suns Clippers series, Suns also won, I believe, in 6 games. That was a really fun series, I thought. There was the DeAndre Ayton tip in at the buzzer, which was insane. Chris Paul unfortunately missed the first few games because of COVID, but then game 6, he went off. Patrick Beverley lost his mind, pushed him in the back. Devin Booker went off in game 1. I mean, it was a really fun series, and it was nice to see the Suns come out on top. But yeah, if you had any thoughts there about the conference finals, by all means, let me know. But then you can also jump in now to your analysis of the finals matchup between the Bucks and the Suns.
Yeah, on the two series, you hit the nail on the head, especially with the Bucks Hawks series. That series got off to a really fun start. First couple games were really entertaining, and then you had the Trae Young injury, and I was like, oh yeah, the Hawks are absolutely done. They have no chance of winning this series. And then right after that, Giannis got injured, so I was like, oh, maybe the Hawks have a chance to win, but it wasn't. Luckily, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday were able to kind of carry the low while Giannis was out. Which I mean, the Giannis injury, I have absolutely no idea how he's playing right now. That injury looked horrifyingly bad. I thought, ACL right away looked like an injury that was going to keep him out of the rest of the playoffs and probably put the start of next season in jeopardy as well. Really only a few months away. So I thought Giannis was. I mean, I'm really happy. Like I said, I'm not like the biggest Giannis fan in the world. Obviously, he's a very good player, but you never want to see any really good player go down with an injury like that. So I'm very happy that he's playing in the finals to make this somewhat interesting series versus, if he wasn't in, this would be I mean, honestly, Suns probably could sweep them without Giannis. So I'm happy he's healthy enough to play, and he did look pretty good in game 1 of the finals. But on the other series, the Suns, Clippers was also I think if the Clippers had Kawhi Leonard, this would have at least gone to 7. This was a very good series regardless. It was awesome seeing Paul George, another guy I'm not a huge fan of, but it was nice seeing him kind of bounce back from a rough playoff. They weren't able to, pull off the upset, but I thought Paul George really, really had a good playoffs. He kind of carry the team. And then guys like, Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, interesting. The Clippers had an interesting run without Kawhi. I mean, definitely Reggie Jackson was the big guy that he'll probably get a pretty decent
He's gonna get
contract in the
paid,
offseason. Yeah,
yeah.
he's probably going to get a contract because of how good he was in the playoffs. I mean, this is the best basketball he's played in his life, and it kind of reminded me a little bit. Well, I didn't like him with the Pistons. He wasn't, he could put up 20 points every once in a while. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of how he was with the Pistons, getting double digits most times out there. But I'll get into my, little finals opinion now. I think my prediction is probably that the Suns are going to win in six. I think that's what I'm going to go. Suns in six. They in game one they looked pretty dominant in my opinion. I thought DeAndre Ayton played an absolute whale of a game. They didn't have any answer for him. The dude nearly had a 2020 game in his first NBA Finals game. He was awesome. And then Chris Paul was just as incredible. He had that, I feel like in the third quarter, he really took over that game. He didn't really score a lot in the first half, but he really took over in the second half and made it pretty easy for them to win. But I was just really impressed watching those two. They looked like they had a lot of chemistry between each other. I felt like in the pick and roll, he was finding Ayton a lot on those rim runs, getting those oops up to him. Ayton had a lot of finishes around the rim. He's shooting over 70% in the playoffs as well, which is really impressive. But it's plays like that have really gotten the job done. But I just wasn't that impressed with how the Bucks played in game one. But Giannis is coming back from an injury. He did look pretty good. I thought Middleton also looked really good, but Drew Holiday played like absolute crap. He couldn't find the bottom of the basket at all. And I thought was a big reason why that they were down by so many points. It just really didn't look like he was in attack mode when he was putting up shots. They weren't dropping. So I mean, the series is definitely not over after one game. You can't write off the Bucks. It's just one game, a home game for the Suns. So not going to write off this team, but the Suns definitely looked poised to take this series into their own hands.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything that you said there. The Bucks, I mean, Chris Middleton is pretty inconsistent too, even though he was really good there in game one. Giannis was good, but I don't think he was an MVP Giannis, I didn't think. He definitely slowed down there in the second half. You could tell that in the first half he looked great. I mean, he had the chase down block. The Bucks were really in the game for the most part, but then the second half when he kind of looked like he got tired, and maybe that just more conditioning than actually him being injured still. But you could tell once he kind of got tired a little bit, the whole team kind of went down, and then that's when the Suns got up by like 20, and then the Bucks went on a little bit of run when Chris Middleton caught fire, and then the Suns kind of pulled away there down the stretch. But they're gonna need Giannis to either get his conditioning up or get a little bit healthier. They're gonna need Middleton to be more consistent than he was in the previous playoff series, because I mean, Game 2 is tonight. I mean, we very well could see a dud by Chris Middleton because that's how it's been for some of the playoffs. He's either like MVP level Chris Middleton or he's absolute trash. And Drew Holiday, I mean, yeah, he was decent that Hawks series, but he's been garbage. And I'm ready. And as a Blazers fan, you should appreciate this. I'm ready to lay the rest of how good Drew Holiday is in the playoffs because of that one series he had with the Pelicans against the Blazers way back when a few years ago. I mean, he's definitely an upgrade from Eric Bledsoe, but he's not as big of an upgrade, I think, as we expected. He's very much like Middleton. It's like he's really good, like he was, and for the most part of that Hawks series, or he's really bad, like he was in Game 1 of this series, or against the Nets, or even kind of way back when against the Heat too, which feels like 55 years ago in the first round, and it was only a couple months ago. But yeah, he really needs to step up here. Defensively, usually defensively is his hallmark, and he even defensively last in game one he wasn't great. He just looked very lackluster. Didn't have a lot of effort there. They're gonna need him to step up on both ends. I'm interested to see too what the Bucks do. They experimented with Giannis at the 5, which seemed to give them a little bit of a boost. But then unfortunately, when you put Giannis at the 5, you take Brook Lopez out, which kind of maybe limits the DeAndre Ayton pick and roll pop. But then you have Bryn Forbes and Pat Connaughton both on the floor at the same time, and then allows the Suns to just attack those guys rather than Brook Lopez. So a lot of questions here with the Bucks and the Suns. They just don't really have that many questions. I mean, Devin Booker, I think he shot like 1 of 8 or 1 of 9 from 3 in game 1. He wasn't like he was good, but he wasn't like as good as he could be.
Right.
And the Suns still kind of ran away with the victory. Chris Paul was a monster. DeAndre Ayton, I was praying that he would get one more rebound so he could get a 2020. But unfortunately, I think he finished with like 22 and 19, which is obviously still a really good game. Bridges, Crowder, Cam Johnson was really good. This Suns team, I love them. They're a really fun team to watch. And I think I was gonna say Suns in 6 too, but just to be different, I'll say Suns in 5. I think the Bucks.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm just being different. To be honest with you, I think I'm leaning more towards your analysis of Suns in 6. I do want to still put some respect on the Bucks name, but the Suns are just firing on all cylinders, and I definitely think the Suns are going to win this series. They just have the matchups. They got unless an injury happens or anything. I think the Suns just have this. Unless Drew Holiday becomes All Star Drew Holiday again, Chris Middleton stays consistent, Giannis can shake off the injury. But there's just a lot of ifs and buts and whats with the Bucks and the Suns. It's just they've answered all my questions really that we had going into this playoffs. And I'm really real quick, I know you probably have some other stuff to say too. I really want to just give a big shout. I know I mentioned him a second ago, but DeAndre Ayton. I mean, he's a guy we labeled him as a bust. Because he was the number 1 overall pick in that draft with Trae Young and Luka Doncic.
yeah.
And yes, is DeAndre Ayton better than Luka Doncic or Trae Young? No, but he's still a really, really good player, and it's easy to say that without him, I don't think the Suns would be in this spot.
No,
I mean, it's
no way.
really is a big 3, and I think he does go unnoticed a lot of the time. But in addition to like his rebounding, his defense, his pick and roll game, how he scores, he's also really good. He doesn't get in foul trouble at all either, which is really awesome for a big guy. And I know that one of the game plans for the Bucks was try to get him in foul trouble, but it just doesn't happen. And he's been a really beast in this playoffs, and hopefully a lot of people put a little more respect on him because I'd even say, and this might be a hot take, I don't think the talent discrepancy between him and Trae Young is that great. I think it's pretty. They're kind of around that same level of player. I think, even though obviously they play different positions. But yeah, obviously he's not as good as Luka, but yeah, I mean that's weird to think too. What if Luka Doncic on this team? They probably won't get Chris Paul. They don't have Ayton. That'd be a whole different things. But Ayton's the perfect fit for this team. I just wanted to give a big shout out to him because I do think he gets unnoticed with the dynamic duo of Booker and Paul. But anyway, I'll let you get into whatever you want to talk about next.
Yeah, honestly, I was about to go right into some Ayton talk again, so you kind of stole my thunder there. But I just wanted to say, honestly, there is no universe where this guy can be considered anything remotely close to a draft bust. I mean, this guy's already one of the best centers. I'm gonna go on a limb and say he's the 4th best center in the NBA. I think he's better than Bam. I think he's better than Gobert. I mean, this is the guy I want leading my team, anchoring my team. Honestly, I don't think he's that far off from being better than Karl-Anthony Towns either. This guy is, maybe he's not going to drop 35 in a game, but this is a guy that's going to play sound defense. He's one of the best. I would say he's a top 5 defensive center. He's one of the best rebounding centers, and he doesn't make mistakes. That's the thing I really like about him. He's not a guy that's going to take wild shots. He's not going to have these off nights. I feel like he's just out there every night giving in maximum effort. He's always in the right spot. I just think him and Chris Paul really, honestly, and Devin Booker now. I think Booker's developed. They've gotten a better connection as well. I think all 3 of those guys have a really good connection together, and I think that's the engine that drives this team and makes it, like you said, a big 3. Because I think without Ayton, this team, I don't think they'd win. I don't think they'd be in the spot they are right now. Obviously, they need Chris Paul and Devin Booker just as much. I don't think with any of those guys, they wouldn't be here or whatever. I think if they need all 3 just as equally. But even guys like, Mikal Bridges, I think he's extremely important to this team as well because he's a wing defender that you can throw on Chris Middleton. You can throw on Giannis from time to time. And he also can hit. He also is a guy that doesn't make mistakes. These are guys that you need around Chris Paul and Devin Booker. These guys are going to take a lot of shots. Paul and Booker are going to. They get the ball a lot. So you need guys like Ayton, Crowder, and Bridges all to, kind of space the floor, make the right play. I think all 3 of those guys are really good at. And honestly, things that are encouraging for the Suns is outside of Paul and Ayton, they didn't really get much scoring. I mean, Booker was 8 for 21 from the floor. Bridges was only 5 for 13, and Crowder was 0 for 8 from the floor. So they really didn't get a lot. They only really got a lot from Paul, who was 12 for 19, and Ayton, who was 8 for 10. Both guys were awesome. But outside of that, they didn't get a lot of scoring. So I think that they'll have better offensive nights than they did in this one. But I mean, obviously, in Game 1, Ayton and Paul were the engine that drove this team to victory, and they can do that pretty much every game, I think. Because I don't know what the answer is to cover DeAndre Ayton down low. Because, like you said, if you put Giannis at the 5, it just opens up. Yeah, maybe you'll stop Ayton a little more often, but then Paul and Booker are just going to absolutely cook those guards all day. And if you have Lopez out there, he's not a good enough defender to stop Ayton. So Ayton just plays bully ball the whole game, and he just destroys them in the pick and roll. So I don't know what the answer is for the Bucks, but they got to find one soon in game two. I think if they don't take game two, the series is over.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that too. And the other thing with Lopez is not just with him guarding Ayton, but they do that pick and roll, and then you got Lopez on Chris Paul, and then Chris Paul just goes to work on Lopez, and Lopez is he's not a bad defender. He's much improved since his days with the Nets when he was a brutal defender, but Chris Paul is just a different level, and Lopez just can't keep up with them. But I will say though, and I agree with everything you said there. The Ayton love, I like it. I don't know if he's a top 3 center in the league yet, but he's definitely in the conversation for sure. He's way better than Andre Drummond, that's for sure. And that's another guy that we had, I think some people had in the top 10 of centers to start this year. But I do want to say that I know we're really hyping up the Suns, but I do want to give just a shout out to the Bucks though. I mean, it's great they made it to this point. They had a really hard battle to get to the finals. So they didn't have to go through the Sixers, but they had to go through a really hot Hawks team, the Nets, obviously, and then also the Miami Heat, who they absolutely demolished. So kudos to them. But they're not as good as the Suns, and it's really surprising to say that. Again, I did not expect the Suns to be this good in year one with Chris Paul. Who's also going to be a free agent. So I imagine if they win a finals, he'll be back in Phoenix. But who knows? Maybe he'll go to the Bucks. There were some rumors that Chris Paul would go to the Bucks last offseason. So who knows? But yeah, it's going to be really entertaining. Hopefully these next few games. I think you're right too. If the Suns win tonight in Game 2, I think the Suns will win the finals pretty easily. I think. 'Cause I don't know if the Bucks will have the firepower to come back, but. Hey, we counted them. I know I definitely counted the Bucks out against the Nets, and they came back and won that series in dramatic fashion. So you can never count out this team until they're absolutely done. But like we've both been saying, Phoenix is they're insane right now. They're firing on literally all cylinders. The Dario Saric injury does suck. He tore his ACL. He's out indefinitely. But even like Frank Kaminsky, he's not great, but he's not awful. You can throw him out there for a few minutes. And another guy, too, that we haven't even mentioned, Cameron Payne, got some nice buckets there off the bench in Game 1, and he's been really dynamic. I know we've talked about him on this show several times throughout the playoffs. But did you have anything else you wanted to add about the NBA Finals?
No, I'm just like you said, really looking forward to watching how the rest of the series plays out. And the Bucks, yeah, obviously deserve a lot of credit for getting to this point. I don't think they have the firepower to get this series done, but you can't count them out, man. I mean, this Suns team is very good. I really want them to win this series for Chris Paul's sake. I think he deserves a ring, but at the same time, Giannis also deserves one. So it would be cool to see him get one. But yeah, outside of that, not really a whole lot to add. It's been a really, like I said, really fun season overall. I'm really looking forward to the NBA draft, obviously, because the Pistons hold the keys to the #1 pick as of right now. We'll see how that ends up playing out because there's a lot of those trade rumors, teams wanting to come up. I just saw the Cavs interested in moving up, which we should just hang up the phone on them because I really want that first overall pick. But we'll have to see how that works out. And then obviously I'm really looking forward to the free agency period to see what some of these big names that are, Kawhi Leonard, Damian Lillard are both rumored to potentially be on the move this year. We'll see how that plays out and what that ends up doing to the NBA league as a whole.
Yeah, NBA and basketball really is a 12-month sport now. Even when the games are being played, there's so much drama and intrigue. Like you said, with the draft, with trades, with free agency, with everything. So even though we unfortunately won't be able to see basketball being played for, actually also we really only will miss basketball for like 2 months now because it's an abbreviated off season because we're still in that COVID period. So
right.
I think they said they're looking to tip off the season in October. So really we'll be back in action here pretty quickly. But yeah, I did want to touch on real quick, though. I did see that same report that just came through about Cleveland eyeing to trade up to #1. That's great. I mean, that's awesome. I would like $1 million. I'd like a lot of things. So like you said, I think it's just these reports are coming out, and I've said this several times because all the media outlets don't want Cade Cunningham to go to the Pistons because we're just not considered a big basketball market. But hey, who cares what they think? And I will say what is encouraging is all these reports are, because I think they should hold on to the first overall pick. All these reports are, Cleveland is interested in trading up, or Orlando is interested in trading up. None of it is saying the Pistons. I think they said one thing said they're going to listen to offers, or they're open if they get the right offer, blah, blah, blah. Typical GM speak. But nothing is said the Pistons absolutely want to trade this pick. So that's encouraging for me as a guy who really wants to see Cade Cunningham in the red, white, and blue. And also, other encouraging thing, too, is Cade Cunningham came out, I think it was yesterday, and said how he wants to be in Detroit. And actually, too, one more thing, actually, is when he did his Instagram live on the night of the draft lottery when the Pistons got the first overall pick, you could hear somebody, I think it might have been him actually, say, "Thank God it wasn't Cleveland," in the background. So I definitely, I don't think he likes those rumors about maybe Cleveland trading up, but he said he wants to come to Detroit. That's awesome. And I know we're focusing on the finals here for this episode, but I'm really, really excited for the NBA draft. Probably the most amped I've been for it in like years. So
I wonder
I'm
why.
really looking forward to it. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, unless you got anything else you want to add, that'll do it for this episode of the Zone Defense podcast. Once again, we'll probably do plenty of NBA coverage, probably post finals. We'll do one after the NBA draft. We'll probably do some free agency and trade news too. So make sure you keep checking out these Zone Defense basketball hours. We also have plenty of NFL offseason content because as soon as the NBA season's done, the NFL season is like right around the corner. We have fantasy football rankings. We did a really fun fantasy football mock draft that'll be going up probably a few days after this episode. So be sure you check that out. And we also will have division previews for the NFL 2021 season. So be sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and search us on Apple Podcasts. Be sure you smash that like button down below and leave a comment. Let us know your predictions for the 2021 NBA Finals. And also maybe what was the most surprising thing that happened in these playoffs. For me, I definitely think it's the Suns making it this far, but we love reading all those comments that you guys leave, and we try to respond to them as quickly as we can. But once again, thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.